Well, hey, in session 9, we're going to be looking actually at chapter 10 in your book, and we'll talk about a few different things. But one thing is about corporate finances, and an important thing on that is like raising capital. What's the best way to do that? There are other issues. There are some ethical issues with raising capital. One thing is that you need to be very careful about your paperwork in terms of preparing to accept loans from the critical people involved in creating a new corporation. If you're buying stock, that's one thing. If it's a loan to the corporation, that all needs to be done in writing. So the IRS especially will be able to understand the path that the money takes and follow that path into the corporation and back out again. So very important that we follow good technique all the way through in the formation of a corporation. Everything there needs to be in writing. It needs to be signed. There needs to be periodic meetings. Everybody needs to agree and sign that are an important part of the corporation. And so basically the couple of options: you could loan the money to the corporation at a certain rate, or you can give the money to the corporation in exchange for shares. In a nonprofit, on the other hand, it would have to be a donation, so you wouldn't really expect anything in return. But sometimes people in a nonprofit will put money in as a donation and then take it back out as wages, and this can be problematic at times. The whole idea of you need a separation between the corporate structure and their finances, as well as between the individual's finances, so that it's not what we call commingled. That's not a good way to go. And so moving on then down into the other aspects of this that I mentioned in your discussion, look at the statutes in Indiana. We need to look at that. Indiana statutes have a lot to say about the activities of corporations. There has to be filing. We have basically two types of corporations. We have what we call a de jure corporation. This is Latin, means a legal corporation, or a de facto corporation. And a de facto corporation does not comply with the written requirements of Indiana law, but they walk like a duck, they sound like a duck, so chances are they're probably a duck. So that's what I mean by de facto. It is in fact a corporation, even though maybe they haven't turned in their reports or their paperwork. But that is a lot tougher case to make, and so it's much better to continue to be a de jure corporation. As I was saying in the earlier part about finances, very important that all your P's and Q's are in order, and your T's are crossed and your I's are crossed, or your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, or however you want to do it. But you know what I mean. You need to do it right. So go to this website that I've got under discussion board, session 9, click on it, and it'll take you right to the website. And so what you're going to need to do is look at that carefully. Now, I've found that some of you may have difficulty in terms of being able to open this link, so you may need to copy the link with your mouse and then open a new search window. Sometimes Ivy Tech can be a little tricky on what it allows you to access through the Ivy Tech web. They have security and things like that. So it might be to your best interest to just grab that by using your mouse to copy it and then paste it into a new search and then click on it. So we're looking at Title 23 in the Indiana code. It's very accessible, and so what you really want to do is you'll go and you'll see that this goes down quite a ways, and what you want to do is look for corporations. So if you look at Article 1 is Indiana Business Corporation Law. It's kind of a general introduction. Article 1.5 is professional corporations. That's like lawyers and doctors. Article 2, securities. Now here's where you get into stocks and other kind of loans. Can be like bonds or notes or different things like that. And Article 3 has been repealed. Article 4 is partnerships. Article 5, other kinds of businesses. Article 6 is public corporations, and Article 7, general civil or charitable corporations, where you get into your nonprofits. And then 8 and 9 are repealed. Fraternities, like the FOP for police and different things like that, are under Article 10. 11 and 12 are also repealed. 13 is educational institutions, be like a private college. 14 is cemeteries, believe it or not. And then 15 is your miscellaneous provisions, and then you get more directly into limited partnerships, and 16's nonprofit corporations, and 17, 18 limited liability companies, and then 19 Uniform Securities Act. So it would fit together with the 2 securities and franchises, and then it also fits together with 20, which is a separate section for victims of security violations. So these are just some important things to consider. What I really want you to do here is really delve into these articles and talk about them. Really like you to just focus more in Article 1 in the beginning of this, but you might want to move down in and look at some other ones. Well, as you look at this then, if you look at Article 1, like I said, these are all PDFs, but it shows you that the first 16 chapters have been repealed. They ought to probably work that a little bit different way and just find a way to take them out of this. But it's the old law. You can look at the old law if you want to. The important things for you go into construction and application. That's just kind of an introduction. Transitional provisions, that's going from one old section that's been repealed to another. 18 is filing documents, how to go about filing corporate documents. That would be very important for a paralegal to understand. 19 is the powers of the Secretary of State. I'd like you to look at that and then discuss it. So look at especially Chapter 18, filing documents, and click on it. I'd like to see you to look on that. This is 23.118, 23.118. That's Indiana Code 23.118, Chapter 18, filing documents. And it talks about filing fees, and you could comment on what's a fair amount of money for filing fees. You could also talk about the different other breakdown on aspects. Just goes right down through and talks about corporate seals, signing by the secretary, acknowledgement, meaning it needs to be verification, more or less a certification that something's true. Beyond that, you might even want to consider using statements, what we call an affirmation, which is it relates to penalties for perjury. So there's a number of different ways to do this. Then it goes into how to pay for things. You can pay for things online with credit cards now or debit cards, so a lot of these things now can be done on the internet. You're not really required to walk in an office somewhere or mail it. But I mean, those are all options. You can still mail it. Important also that you need to have this specific number of copies, and also then the secretary actually in a separate section, it's not Indiana Code, but it is under the administrative rules of the Secretary of State, can set forth forms that are in compliance, and so all you have to do is use their forms and fill the forms out. And then look down at IC 23.118.3. This is a good one. Talk a little bit about what you think. Do you think it's fair that electronic filing, for example, is $75 for articles of incorporation, whereas if you mail it, it's $90? So it actually costs more because they physically have to process the paperwork, whereas electronically it's a lot easier for them to handle because the computer does a lot of the work. A lot less involved in terms of checking things over. Reservation of a name is $10. Again, it's $20 if you do it in the mail or walking into a counter and turn it in. That's the old way you had to do it. You either had to drive down there and turn it in, or you had to mail it. Sometimes stuff gets lost in the mail when you go into a big office of government like that. So I generally would, figure a day that I could slip away, go down there, file it, grab a nice lunch somewhere in Indianapolis like Buca di Beppo or something, and then drive on back. So these are just some of the things that you want to consider. Number of different fees and charges you can look at. Give us your thoughts on that. Just find something original that's new to you that you can comment on. There's a lot of information here in this IC 23-118. And that's where I think would be a good place to focus for our discussion. Just try to find something. I mean, some of this is dry as dust. I know it's hard, but find something that you think is worthy of comment. Comment on it. Share it with your fellow students and ask that they reply. What do you think? This type thing. That one example I gave is just one of many possible examples that you could say, well, what about this, So let us know what you think. Just post it on discussion below my comments, or you can create your own thread and go that direction. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more additional video lectures as we go along. Hope you had a great spring break, and I know I did. So take care.